You don't need a luxury kitchen to prepare gourmet meals. My name is Dennis. I live in a mobile home in a trailer park, and this is my kitchen. A friend of mine handed me a recipe. He wanted me to make something and tell him whether it was good or not, and I was intrigued by it. It's sort of like Eggs Benedict. You know what Eggs Benedict is? You use an English muffin, slice of Canadian bacon, egg, and then it's a poached egg, and then Hollandaise sauce on top. But this was smoked salmon Eggs Benedict. I didn't care for how it was prepared because it was a restaurant recipe, so they cooked all the eggs in advance and then left them in a bowl of water, and then when a customer would order it, they would take one of the eggs out, heat it up, put it over toast, garnish it, out it would go to the table. So I had to kind of reverse engineer it a little bit. One of the things that's different about this, besides the smoked salmon, is rather than using English muffin, it uses toast. Now I don't want to use the toast, the bread that they have in the store, because you know that's like 99% air, 1/10 of 1% nutrient, and then the remaining 9/10 of 1% are like petroleum byproducts or something. Okay, I made that last part up, but I wanted a good bread to make toast. So what I did yesterday was I made a loaf of pain de mie. Pain de mie is a square loaf. It's made inside of a, well, rectangular this way, but square this way. It's made inside of a steel box, and it has a lid on it so that it can't expand and bloom out like a loaf of bread will. It's kind of locked in there, and that gives you a nice dense loaf. So you get a nice piece of bread that you can toast. This makes great toast. This makes great French toast. Yeah, you dip it in butter, and then, not butter, but egg, and then fry it. I even put extra butter in this, and I used cream rather than milk, or some cream and some milk, to make it closer to a brioche loaf. It's not a true brioche, but it's closer to a brioche because it's higher in fat. So I'm going to use this for my toast. Let's get into making our smoked salmon Eggs Benedict today. The first thing I need to do here is juice a lemon. So that gives me an excuse to use my little wooden lemon juicer here that I bought just for making videos. So I need to start by cutting my lemon in half. And then I have a little bowl here with a sieve in it to catch any seeds that might come out. I'm going to juice my lemon, trying to get most of it in the bowl. Some is going to splatter. I mean, you can't help that. I need about 2 tablespoons of lemon juice here. The rest I can use for just making a small glass. See, there's a seed right there. Making a small glass of lemonade, maybe putting a little bit of Epicurious in it, what I call my white trash lemonade. And then make sure that I get as much of my lemon juice as possible out of that. I probably got 1/4 cup to 1/3 of a cup of lemon juice there. Perfect, fresh lemon juice. Next, I want to make my Hollandaise sauce. There are different ways of doing this. I'm just going to do it my way. So I'm going to start. I've got a bowl set up. So I'm going to put 3 egg yolks. These are from large eggs in a bowl. And then put, this is about 1/4 teaspoon of white pepper. You can use freshly ground black pepper. I just don't want the specks in there. And then using a whisk, I'm going to use my motorized whisk. I want to beat these up for at least a minute. They'll get frothy and a little bit thick. Okay, those have been beating now for about a minute. To my egg yolks, now that they're frothy, I want to add 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, that lemon juice that I squeezed, and 2 tablespoons of water. So I know this is already 2 tablespoons, but I do want to measure my lemon juice. So there's 1 and 2. Got a little bit left behind. And then beat that up as well. I'm setting up a double boiler here on my stove. That's basically one pan that's going to fit inside of the other. I'm going to put a little bit of water into this pan, just enough so that it comes up to the surface of this bottom pan. I don't want this pan floating in the water, because if the water boils up around the side of the pan, it could end up inside my custard and I ruin my egg yolk custard. So just enough. Now, some people, I mean, if you're brave, you can do this over direct heat and cook your custard. I say, why take any risks? If you overheat the egg yolk custard, the yolks cook and you end up with curdled custard because you have scrambled eggs in there. So I prefer to work with a double boiler. It gives me gentler heat. It's not going to get too hot too rapidly. It's safer to work with. Why take any chances? I'm going to turn my heat on under my water here. I'm going to bring this to a boil and then put my custard in my second pan and then rest that inside. As far as how much water I have in this pan, I measured it. It's exactly 1 cup. My water is now coming to the boil. So I'm going to put my pan in there and put my egg yolk mixture in here. And then I'm going to put a tablespoon of butter in there. This will also help to protect those yolks a little bit. And once again with my whisk, I'm going to turn my heat down here a little bit. I'm going to whisk this. The butter is going to remain hard until that egg yolk mixture warms up. I'm going to whisk this all while it's cooking. I have a digital thermometer ready to monitor my heat, because at 158 degrees Fahrenheit, 65 degrees Celsius, these eggs will cook and I'll end up with scrambled eggs, which will ruin my custard. But I do want to get this up to about 140 degrees Fahrenheit, 60 degrees Celsius, because at that temperature, if there is any bacteria in my egg yolks, the temperature will kill it. So there is my thickened egg yolk mixture. That came up to heat very quickly over that boiling water. I removed it from the heat as soon as it started to thicken, and this came up to 148 degrees Fahrenheit. So now this is ready for me to start continuing. I'm going to be working butter into this. With my pan off the heat now, with my egg yolk mixture in there, I'm going to start working in butter. I have some room temperature butter set aside here. You could put in as much as 6 ounces of butter in 3 egg yolks. I'm only going to put in 4 ounces, and I'm going to work it in about a tablespoon at a time until it's completely incorporated. And just work that in, completely incorporate it before you add more butter. And get it on the stove. I'm going to work at a lower speed here. I just put the last of my butter in there. That was 4 ounces of butter, which was at room temperature, which is 113 grams of butter. You can see how wonderfully thick that is. Beautiful Hollandaise sauce. Now, I do want to taste this for salt. I love the consistency of that. I'm going to put half a teaspoon, quarter teaspoon of salt in there. Got my red handled tasting spoon. Let's see what that tastes like. Nice. It's a little bit buttery. It's a little bit lemony. Some people like to put in Dijon mustard just a little bit. I'm going to leave it out this time because I think it won't go well with the flavor of the salmon, but it might. You can experiment with that. All right, so my Hollandaise sauce is done, and I only made a small amount. I have maybe a half a cup here. If you're going to be cooking a lot of eggs for a lot of people, obviously you want to double or even triple, quadruple this recipe. Under a large saute pan here, I'm going to bring up my heat. I've got several cups of water in here. I want plenty of water to poach my eggs. I could use a smaller pan because I'm only going to poach one egg for this demonstration, but use a large pan if you're going to be poaching eggs for a lot of people. And then to this, I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of white vinegar. The white vinegar will help the egg whites to cook better and congeal better, hold together better when they cook. So I need to bring this up to a boil. In the meantime, I'm going to slice my pain de mie and toast that bread. All right, I'm ready to slice my bread here. I got to tell you, making this bread yesterday and not cutting into it, smelling the aroma of baking fresh bread. I even had a friend over the house, and she said, that just smells so good. I knew she wanted a slice, but I didn't want to slice into it until today, so I resisted all temptations to slice into this bread. Let's see what we got here. I need a knife. I'm just going to cut this end piece off. Set that aside. It's looking good already. I'm going to cut a fairly thick slice here, about 3/4 of an inch, maybe 2 centimeters. There's my pain de mie bread. See, it's a little bit denser than the store-bought bread, which is all air. So I'm going to pop this in the toaster now, and then my water is just about coming up to the boil. So in a moment here, I'll be able to start assembling my smoked salmon Eggs Benedict. My water is just coming up to a boil here, so I'm going to turn the heat down on that. Then I'm going to ease my egg in there. The idea with poaching an egg, and I'm going to set my timer for 3 minutes. You don't want your water to be agitated too much, because as it agitates, it's going to mess up your egg. So you just want it to the point where it's just barely starting to bubble. And that's the temperature at which it'll cook the egg, but it'll also keep it from breaking apart. To garnish my Eggs Benedict, I'm going to pull the leaves off some parsley sprigs and chop this up really well, and I'll just use that to finish it at the end, just a light dusting of chopped parsley. So there are just the leaves only from about 8 or 9 sprigs of parsley. I just want to give these a nice chop. You want them kind of fine. You don't need to reduce them to a dust, obviously, but they'll look better as a garnish if chopped pretty fine. That looks good right there. Get a bowl out. And there's my garnish. So there is my toast. I'm going to put a slice of smoked salmon on my toast. Put my poached egg on top. And then I reheated my Hollandaise sauce. pool plenty of that over the top. Oh, that is looking so good already. And finally, a little bit of a garnish with fresh chopped parsley. And the last step is to see how good that tastes. Okay, I cut into this. I broke my yolk over it. Let it drizzle into the Hollandaise sauce. That is surprisingly good. See, that Hollandaise doesn't need any Dijon. The lemon juice and the salmon go perfectly together. So, what time is it now? It's 10 minutes to noontime. So, excuse me, I'm going to go enjoy my lunch. For a printable PDF copy of this recipe with step-by-step photographs, visit the White Trash Cooking website and look on the home page or in the recipe archive.